Okay, so I chose to use this tool the National Constitution Center has created called the Interactive Constitution. And the foundational principle that I chose to focus my lesson plan on would be checks and balances. So, the reason that I chose this tool, that I like this so much, is that first of all, I believe that the main text for any civics course in the United States should be the United States Constitution. I think we go to the primary source when we're working with our students. And when our students have questions about, well, can they do this or should they do that? We say, well, I don't know, can they? Let's look in the Constitution. Let's see what it says there. That's the handbook for running our country. So I like using the Constitution Center because it's nonpartisan, because it is reliable and because it is scholarly and credible information for my students to use. So if they come to the National Constitution website and we want to talk about checks and balances, because of everything going on in the news right now, we can't get away from talking about impeachment. That is what my students are just obsessed with right now. They want to understand what's happening. They want to understand how they should feel about what's happening. And I don't like to tell my students what they should think or what they should feel about anything. I want to give them all of the tools and all of the information so that they can come to their own conclusions based on their own values and belief systems and whatever. So I designed this lesson so that students could explore the idea of checks and balances with regard to impeachment and the current situation without actually discussing the current situation. So, the way that I would approach a lesson like this is that I would have my students begin by creating a list of questions that they have about impeachment. How does the process work? Who is in charge? What does it mean exactly? How many people have been impeached historically? That kind of question. And when is it appropriate to impeach? Why do we have impeachment? Why is it even in the Constitution? And like I said, I don't want to get into a political discussion. I don't want to talk about Trump or Ukraine or Pelosi or any of those things that are currently going on, because I don't want this to turn into a political discussion. I want them to look at this as a conceptual discussion of the powers in our Constitution, why the founders would have put them there, how we can use them, and when it's appropriate to use those. So one thing that I love about this site here is that they have something known as the Civil Dialogue Toolkit. And if you go through the Constitution Center's website, the Interactive Constitution, you will find this information. And it tells you how to have a civic discussion. And it gives you the information that you need for your students, how they participate, what you do. You create a set of norms for the classroom. You talk about how you're going to grade it. You talk about what we're going to talk about. We're establishing a constitutional conversation here. This is not a political debate. And you have to make that very clear to your students. And right here, it tells you what is a constitutional conversation. First of all, it's an instructional approach to constitutional literacy, where you're using scholarly writings and the actual Constitution to back up your argument. Okay? It means that we are separating our political views from constitutional views, what's actually in the Constitution. It helps us to focus our ideas, opinions, and understanding expressed in the interactive Constitution. It builds our abilities to use evidence, all of these things. We're respectfully sharing our opinions and respectfully listening to the views of others. And so I love this, and you can go through this with your students. If this is the first time that you've had one of these constitutional conversations in your class, the idea is that you've probably had this conversation already, but if you haven't, this is a good place to start. So after going through this dialogue toolkit, then I'm going to ask my students to come up with or to read the Constitution. And so they're going to come over here to the Interactive Constitution, and they're going to click on Article 2. And it's going to have it right here for them on the side, the exact wording. You can go to the original text, and it will give you the exact wording. Article 2, the executive branch. We scroll down to section number 4. There's the exact wording, and we can click on Read Interpretations of Article 2, Section 4. And that's where we're going to get into some of the scholarly articles. And when we go there, it gives us common interpretations. So these are written by 2 law professors, well-known, accredited law professors, and they get together and they write common interpretation of this. So students can start to understand what it's about. But then I want them to think a little bit deeper about it. So these matters of debate, what are things that we don't fully understand about impeachment powers? What are some things that haven't fully been explored? What are the debates that are going on right now with impeachment? And they've got 2 articles, one written by each of these scholars about independence, impeachment, what are high crimes and misdemeanors, those kind of information. And let my students read through those things. Once they've done that, then we are going to have our classroom Socratic seminar. We're going to have a chance for them to use those 2 questions that they developed to have an open civil dialogue with each other where they're respectful and they are discussing impeachment in the ideas of how is it a check and a balance for powers? How does it deal with separation of powers? How does it check the powers of certain individuals in the government? When is it appropriate to use? All of those great constitutional questions they're going to be debating. Like I said, it's very timely with what's going on right now, but we're not getting into a political or ideological debate about should Trump be impeached? Is Nancy Pelosi doing the right thing? What happened in Ukraine? We're not getting into that. We don't have all of the facts, and I don't want to go there. But I want to give them the tools so that as they read the news, as the facts come out, they can have their own opinion on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Is this what our country needs? And then I love that here at the bottom in this media library for Article 2, they have more media, right? Because students today love media, of things that they can look at. If this conversation was interesting to them when they go home tonight, there's a couple of podcasts. When can the president claim executive privilege? It's a podcast they can listen to for free. There's a blog post they can read about the House's role in the impeachment inquiry process, which is what's going on right now. It says on Tuesday, Nancy Pelosi, this article just went up today. There's a town hall video from a couple of years ago with Ken Starr talking about the Clinton investigations because President Clinton was our last president to be impeached. So it's giving them some more information that they can build on if that's what they want to do. So for all of those reasons, I really love doing it I love this lesson doing it this way.